All right, so in this tutorial, I'm going to walk you guys through some examples of hard, definite button endings. So there's so many different ways that people describe these things. I usually call it a definite hit ending. Some people call it a button ending. Whatever you want to call it. The point is that almost every track, pretty much I would almost tell you like 100% of the time, when you're composing a track, unless you're given instructions otherwise, you're going to want to have a hit definite ending at the end. And that means usually some sort of a low impact, usually a kick sound, or if you're doing orchestral, it could be a low impact, sometimes a crash cymbal, and then a root chord or a resolving chord or something that gives a sort of nice finishing feeling to the track. And so it doesn't feel like it's lingering. Certainly no long fading out outros, nothing like that. We're not doing anything very creative with this. And usually your tracks are going to want to grow and build and develop to their loudest point right up until that last hit. So that's usually at the end of your track. That's where the most impact and the most velocity and volume should be happening, is right towards the very end of your track. So what I'm going to do in this video is walk you through, I think I have 13 examples. These are all my tracks. These are tracks that have been accepted by libraries. Many of them have been placed in multiple TV shows. Some of them not. I'll tell you some of the ones that I missed on and I submitted to and didn't get accepted to. But at least they still are great examples of definite endings. And I do have quite a few different genres here. I have rock, some hip hop, some trap. I have some minimal tension music, and some dramedy stuff. So we got a few different, even some orchestral stuff. So we've got pretty much the whole gamut of different sort of button endings. So I'm going to go through each one of these one by one, point out what's happening, why they are effective endings to the tracks, and then you can certainly use these as inspiration or ideas for yourself. And this is one of those things where you could just get to the end of your last chorus, just put that last root note ending at the end of your track, and that certainly can be acceptable. But going a little bit above and beyond, as you'll hear here, I usually put about maybe 10% extra effort into having a kind of an interesting sounding outro. You will find that you'll probably get a little bit more placements, you'll get a little bit more attention, and especially when you put together your alt mixes, you're gonna have to put together those stings, right? Stings are usually those things that are 5 to 10 seconds long, and if you have a really interesting and captivating outro to your track, well then you've already kind of built that sting into your track. You don't have to do a lot of work, so it actually saves you time in the long run. But let's go ahead and get through some of these examples here. So this first one's first couple of I think 5 of these are all rock, different styles of rock, but they all are rock tracks. So let's go ahead and take a listen, make sure I'm not blowing my speakers out here. Play it one more time at the glitch. So that first hit, boom, I could have ended it there. Boom. And that could have just been the end of the track. But what I did is I did add the riff that I was grooving in the rest of the track. I'm not going to play the full track, but this down, that was kind of a main theme that I was going through the whole track, and I wanted to include that at the very end. And a very simple build up with the snare and the tom, dun 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 dun, bom bom. Okay, so again, this is that 10% extra effort rather than just having that last hit. You could do something kind of interesting like that. Here's another one. So let me play the chorus so you can get a better idea of what I was doing. Again, right there, I could have dun 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 bam and just been done, right? And that's what a lot of producers will do, is they'll just go right to that root chord. Again, acceptable, but I wanted to add just a little bit more to this. So this is the same sort of formula that I used on the first one, going back to that original riff, but then accenting it big time with these kicks and crashes, dun 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 dun, right? So very simple, nothing crazy about it, but just makes it a little bit more interesting. And when I isolate this and turn it into a sting, that's pretty much what I'm going to be using, is that last couple of seconds. Let's take another one. So that one I didn't include an original riff, but I basically had this hanging chord, dum, bum, bum, bum. So what I could have done, of course, is at that last point, just hit the root chord and be done with this track. Right there, I could have been dun 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 bum, and then just be end with it. But I wanted to have a little bit of a sort of fake out suspending chord that comes up, and then have a nice hit ending with those last three notes there. So again, that one didn't follow a riff in the track, but just kind of some creative choice I came up with at the very end. So that's kind of an idea of suspending sort of that last chord. And giving a little bit of a false sense of an ending and then coming back in with the actual ending. This one's got more of a southern rock feel. So that one did use the original riff, so going back to the first idea, and then just kind of having this nice little drag out, especially in your rock tracks, having this kind of drop down at the very end with the guitars and the bass all going down. Sometimes you can do that with a slowdown, like a tape effect, and in Logic Pro that's actually built in. Instead of just doing a sound curve, you can have it do a fade out. I don't know for other DAWs. Otherwise, you can basically just use probably plugins to get that sort of like pitch drop down. That's because these are all are these all fake? Actually, I don't know if these are fake guitars or not. They may or may not be. I might have recorded the real guitars for this. No, those are real guitars. I take that back. This is before I started using more of the MIDI guitar plugins and stuff. So anyways, this is just a real common thing, especially with these kind of rock tracks, even Southern rock. You go bum, 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 root chord, and then drop it right off, right? Just kind of a cool little ending idea there. And last rock one. So very simple there. Especially in the rock world, what you're going to find is that your endings is just having some sort of really definite exclamation marks with your drums. So kick and crash, down, bum, 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 right? A lot of big, heavy accenting tracks. So it's not necessarily a groove anymore at the very end. The rest of the track is grooving, but at the very end, you want to kind of make it real more like exclamation marks, like your drums are just accenting the riff. And that's one of those ways that usually you can end a rock track fairly quickly or effectively, right? These are some, I believe, some tension and minimal tracks. Let's take a listen. So this is one of those rare exceptions where you do have a little bit of music going after that hit. You guys heard that one last low drop, boom, impact, and the high white noise crash on top of it. And then I allowed the kind of harp, beautiful, arpeggiated melody to kind of keep going with it, just because it seemed to really work and it wanted that, and it still has that sort of final feeling, right? By the time it winds up to that last note, you feel the root come back to the chord, back to the track, and so it starts to feel like a complete idea at the end of it. That white noise riser rising up to the very end, and then boom, an impact. So very simple stuff. I mean, this isn't crazy. You can go to places like splice.com and find these kind of sounds. Plenty of places you can find these cool transition. They usually call them transition effects or just risers, impacts, that kind of thing. Lots of different words. So that's one idea for how to end a minimal sort of tension track. Check it out. So again, this is one of those situations where I did just go dum bum 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 right to the very end. Okay, so could have gotten more creative with that, but again, sometimes it's just the right thing to do. It just seems like it fits with the track. And all I did there was have this kind of nice, kind of screeching string riser coming up, boom, full impact, and then I have this low piano just sort of giving you that final hit, almost like a dark brooding feeling at the very end. check out one more. Again, one of those sort of simple right down to the very root chord, nothing fancy at the very end. Sometimes with these minimal ones, I find it's a little bit trickier to have these kind of false ending suspending chords. You can do it, but a lot of times I find this is usually the best way to end these kinds of tracks. But again, you guys are seeing the formula, something that's indicating we got a transition coming. We do the impact at the very end, and then sort of a root chord or some sort of final hit. This one again has that kind of dark piano at the end. I'll play it one more time. Just rings out for a few seconds, okay? Let's go into something fun. Okay, so this is a track that did not place, but it was one that I submitted for an actual Amazon TV show theme. They never told me what the TV show was. It was actually completely confidential, so I'm not sure exactly which one it got onto. But this was one that I at least approached for it. I like it. I was very proud of it, but you know, you don't win every single one. But we'll go ahead and play this one. I think it's fairly short. It might be 30 seconds, and I'll play the end here. Just play the whole thing. I think that'll probably make more sense. Now, there are some cash register sounds. Usually I say do not include sound effects in your tracks for libraries. This one was requested though from the client I was working with. They wanted cash register money sounds in the track because it really played in with the theme of the TV show. So if you requested it, then go for it. But if you're not requested it, leave all sound effects and stuff like that out of it. Usually you're going to find that you'll probably find more pushback if you do that. So again, that one's pretty simple. Right back to that root chord, right? And sometimes in those very final hits, if you want to do that, that's when you want to have some higher octaves. I'm listening back to this. I actually would want all of those horns to be a lot more impactful, the stabbing ones. Those ones really need to come out more. So, you know, they did this, I don't know, how many years ago did I do this? 2015, so this is 4 years old now. But yeah, you always evolve in this business, and you'll do this as you listen to your old tracks as well. But yeah, going back to this sort of ending, when you want to have those kind of exclamation marks, those hit punches at the very end, sometimes bump, 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 higher notes, right? Add an octave higher, something like that. Sometimes adding that octave higher note of strings or horns or whatever it is you want to do, even in guitars, guitar leads, guitar chords, can actually add a little bit more to that nice, satisfactory ending feeling. This one was fun. This was actually one that I did for a Crunchy Nut. I haven't played it yet. This is one I did for I did a whole series of songs that I submitted for a Crunchy Nut from Kellogg's. I think it was an online, it might have been actually for a TV campaign they were putting together to promote Crunchy Nut cereal for kids. So I did like 8 or 9 of them. I ended up getting one of them placed. This was actually not the one that got placed, but I did think that this one had a great example, and is a different genre that I've shared before, so you can kind of see a different way that I ended this track. So again, going back to that original riff, dun, 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 that's kind of the theme you're hearing. So at the very end, what did I do? Just like I'm doing with all my rock tracks, right? Dun, 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 accent it, make it really, you know, just more impactful at the very end. And I probably now, listening to this one, I really did a long time ago. This was 2012, so this is a long time ago. I probably would have added more elements to those last couple of hits. Dun, 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 maybe some horns or something like that. I just feel it needed a little bit more of a boom at the very end there. But anyway, so that's the idea. This one I think is a trap, hip hop sort of hybrid one. So again, exclamation marks, right? Nothing too fancy there, but just a little bit more than just do 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 boom, right? If you're doing all your tracks and they just end that way, you're just not going to see as much as you would if you do something a little bit more. I mean, that took literally like 5 seconds extra. Dun 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 dun. Just a couple of extra little hits. Just adds a nice little finishing feeling to it. This is for a National Geographical theme. This one also didn't get placed, but this was a really interesting one that I liked. And so you can kind of take a listen to how I ended that. And I'll just play the whole thing through so you can kind of see what I did there. You guys probably hear that sort of ending similar or familiar theme there they got there. That's the Nat Geo theme. So they wanted it to be a little bit more modern and cutting edge. And I'm like listening to it now. And I'm like, yeah, I can see why they didn't pick that. It wasn't exactly fully fleshed out there. So again, but this one, let's see, this is 2015 as well. So this is also quite a few years back. But you can see at the very end. Let me play it one more time. So a suspending chord, hold it there, rise it up, boom, right? And then I just have that ending hit impact at the very low end. And I actually don't have, I don't think there's a tone with it. I think it's just the low impact. I do have something actually hitting there. I think the strings. Maybe not. Maybe they just cut off. So it sounds like there's a, but I think that's just because those are rising up. And right at the very end, when I had that impact come in, I had them start fading down. So it kind of sounds like they rose up to a hit, but they probably actually didn't. They probably just, I automated those strings just to come up and then fade down at the very end. So another idea of that suspension at the very end. And last but not least, this is a dramedy cue actually. So this is like hip hop with comedy infused into it. So I'll just play the last part of it so you can see what I did there. That one did go right to the very end. Dun, 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 dun. And so, probably could have done more with that one. And maybe now you can hear, after going through all the examples, dun, 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 right? You would have had a little bit more of accenting of those last couple of hits, or dun, 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 dun. You could have a little suspension, and then you have a build up with some drums, right? So there's a lot of different things that you can do with these. So don't just always go with your first gut feeling, which is, okay, let me just end it on one at the end of the chorus. Okay, done. That track's done. Once in a while, as you heard, and even in my examples, it's not going to kill you. It's not the end of the world. But getting a little bit of creative with some of your tracks, especially when you're inspired to do so, and you can really come up with a really interesting way to create that button ending, it just adds a lot more usability to your track. Like I said, mostly for those sting uses. So in the end, when you put together a sting, if you just have the ending note, well, you might just have the last part of your chorus, and that's it. But if you have a really interesting ending that has kind of a suspending chord and then a build up and then exclamation marks, that's really lends itself well for, in and out of TV shows, commercials, promos, something that's really exciting. So I think you're just going to find that you'll get more placements and more action with your music if you just take this extra 10% and learn how to do this stuff. So hope this was useful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please, comment below if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. And I will try to read them as soon as I possibly can. But thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it.